On today's show,
Shooting for Kapaun was really fun. Like I said, even from being from Wichita, like I go out to Crestview every day, and the Kapaun coaches are out there, and we're still talking every single day. So that's really cool. But then also my sister played on the team, which was really cool.
We are back in your face on YouTube and potentially in your ears on our podcast. I don't know how that sounds. Cole Rife with you. It's Kansas Sports Chatter, our statewide high school sports entertainment show. Trying to make this as interactive as possible. Make sure you comment, give us some suggestions, what you like, what you don't like about the show. Any comments are always welcome. You can reach us on social media and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Looking at today's show, we have our trio of Ellsworth Bearcats, Tucker Goss, Cooper McGowan, and Micah Galvan will all be joining us for our leadoff question. Rickie Peterson with KSHSAA Covered, one of the staff writers, will be talking some 8-man Division I football, including the hot start for Trigo. Impressive Golden Eagles out of Waukene. Jodi Stover and Neodesha will be our quality time interview of the volleyball coach for Neodesha. Pat Strathman from ESPN Wichita will be talking about his career. Also, Jeremy Deckard of Prep Dig, Kansas will be talking volleyball recruiting in the state. And Kate Tilma from Wichita State University, a member of the women's golf team for the Shockers, and at a Cape and Mount Carmel will be our next level talents toward the end of the show. Here is our leadoff question. It is today's leadoff question with Tucker Goss with Ellsworth football student athlete. Tucker, your question, what's your favorite highlight of your high school career so far?
My favorite highlight from my high school career is definitely, it's got to be just last season. I played my sophomore year. I've just played middle linebacker, but last year I transitioned into a leadership role, played both sides of the ball, and just playing middle linebacker, playing fullback, being a really, a team contributor, having everyone just kind of look up to you. It was kind of cool, and it was fun.
Were there any exact plays or specific games that stood out to you that were a lot of fun last year?
Yeah, I remember the Hillsborough game, and there's a particular play where there was a screen play, and I kind of read it like a book, and the running back was turned his back to him, caught the ball, and I just ran right through him. And when I hit him, you could just hear the crowd erupt. That was one of the biggest hits from my high school career. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
How many times have you watched that highlight?
A lot. I remember, recording it off my phone, sending it to all my buddies, sending it to my parents, and I just go back and slow-mo, replay it. It was awesome.
What's key in making those plays? How much is your preparation help you make sure you read those plays correctly and so you can run fast?
And it's a lot of just the correct read, the first step, and being quick and playing downhill, not hesitating. You got a good first step, go with it, and playing fast downhill. And you got to be smart and you got to be tough. But a lot of that is being smart and having the mindset of what to do. Playing middle linebacker, you see a lot of big guys, but on top of that, you got to be really smart to play that position, and it's the backbone of the defense.
Did anybody have a bigger hit or a better defensive play last year than that one?
I can't remember any off the top of my head. I can't remember right now.
We'll just call your highlight the best.
What's that?
We'll just call your highlight the best then. Tucker, appreciate it. That's Ellsworth football student athlete Tucker Goss with today's leadoff question. It is today's leadoff question with Cooper McGowan with Ellsworth football student athlete. Cooper, your question, what's your favorite highlight of your high school career so far?
Oh, it's definitely got to be back to my sophomore year when we were playing, I think it was Garden Plains in the second round of the playoffs, and it was just great game, great energy, great crowd, and I was able to make a sack in the final, I think it was minute 30 seconds or so, and force an incomplete pass, which that really just kind of helped seal the deal. And led us to a victory that game.
Remembering the details of that sack and how you were able to get it?
Yeah, I remember I was playing D end at the time, and I was pass rushing off the edge, and I faked my hands, and then I did a swim move over the top, and just was able to bend the edge, and then get a pressure, and then the quarterback was rushed on the throw, and I got his arm on the throw, just making him throw it short and incomplete pass.
Did you know right away that was going to be a pretty good highlight?
Yeah, I knew. I was very excited at the time, and still am about that play. It was just a great moment.
How many times have you rewatched that play?
Quite a bit. There's a YouTube video of it somewhere, and it's on my Hulu films to this day. And yeah, I've watched it many times.
Now, was it better than Tucker Goss's hits that he was talking about?
Probably the circumstances of mine were probably bigger, but overall, I think Tucker's hit it's pretty hard to beat that type of level of hit. It was, incredible.
Very good. That's Ellsworth football player Cooper McGowan with today's leadoff question. It is today's leadoff question with Ellsworth football student athlete Micah Galvan. Micah, the question today: what's your favorite highlight of your high school career so far?
I think my favorite highlight of my high school career is probably last year against Hillsboro. We had this about probably third play in. It wasn't a pulling guard, but it was an ISO play with the running back. The lane split right, and the running back was coming right in here, and I just fit the gap perfectly, and it was just set the energy for the game. I felt like, and the crowd, it was great.
Did you know right away that was a pretty good highlight?
Yep, I read it perfectly. I was there. It was perfect.
What goes into making those types of plays? What have you noticed as far as your preparation that helps you out just to kind of decipher things?
I think watching film is a big thing. We prepared a lot coming up to that game, and seeing their game plan and seeing how they prepare and they split and how we get there to the ball.
How much film do you watch going into a game?
I mean, I definitely watch film in class periods sometimes and in my off time, and we watch film as a team also. So I think, but that extra film that you do watch when you're not with the team helps a lot, I think.
How many times have you rewatched that highlight?
Oh, it's on my huddle and everything, so I probably watched it, probably several times. Probably.
That's Micah Galvan with Ellsworth football with today's leadoff question. Some big-time players out of Ellsworth High School. Appreciate Tucker Goss, Cooper McGowan, and also Micah Galvan joining us for our leadoff question. We'll take a break. On the other side of the break, it'll be Rickie Peterson with KSHSAA Covered talking 8-man Division I football, including the hot start for Trigo. People better watch out for the Golden Eagles if they haven't already. Rickie Peterson joins us next.
Referees and game officials are a vital part of high school athletics. These men and women take time out of their lives to ensure a safe and fair environment for student athletes. As you attend sporting events this year, keep in mind the hard work and dedication of the officials. Respecting officials and authority figures is one of the most valuable lessons that we can teach our students. The Kansas State High School Activities Association and the Student Advisory Team would like to thank all those who take the time to officiate our competitions.
Kansas Sports Chatter is here to serve all those who love high school athletics in the Wheat State. Hear from statewide guests, including coaches, players, administrators, media members, and many other Kansas favorites. Jam-packed shows can be watched on YouTube and listened to wherever you go for your podcasts. There's more to high school athletics than just the X's and O's. Come find that more by listening or watching Kansas Sports Chatter. It is story time on Kansas Sports Chatter. Rickie Peterson, one of the staff writers for KSHSAA Covered, joining us on the program here this week. Hey, Rickie, for you, I know you go out to a ton of different games throughout the week, and especially for football on Thursdays or Fridays, and you've seen a lot of 8-man football as well, and especially in that western part, that northwest part of the state. There's some pretty good teams, some teams that are kind of maybe I don't know, we'll say surprises, but I've done maybe better than most people expected. How about like Trigo? Like for you, like you talk about nearby, like Trigo's a remarkable season this year.
Yeah, for sure. And we knew they would be better this year. Last year they got off to an 0-4 start, ended up finishing 4-5, and we knew they would take a step forward this year. I think it has been a surprise about how much of a contender they've been. I'd say right now they've had one of the better resumes in 8-player Division One. When you look at their wins over Hill City and Rollins County, but last week was the big test for them. We were talking about bringing them into the rankings a couple of weeks ago after they beat Rollins County, and Brent Maycock and I decided, well, let's wait and see what they do against Wichita County, which has been probably the best team in 8-player Division One over the last few years when you look at their entire body of work. So in that game, Wichita County came out on just really they were a really tough team to stop with Cashton Young, who's a dynamic quarterback, and he had 4 rushing touchdowns in the first half, and it was like, man, how are they going to stop this kid? Wichita County took a 12-point lead at half, and Trigo's credit, they made some good adjustments, put a couple linebackers on him, and Jack Connis and Cass Smith, and they were able to kind of neutralize him enough to where Wichita County was going to have to do some different things and start passing a little bit more. And that really worked into Trigo's favor because they had a couple huge turnovers, probably the play of the game. Trigo had just tied it up, and their quarterback / defensive back, Ashton Wynn, reads a screen pass over the middle and intercepts it and takes it to the house. And that was really the boost they needed because they were in control for the rest of the way after that. But yeah, that was just a huge confidence boost for that team. Probably one of the bigger wins in recent history when you consider that Wichita County, I believe that was their first regular season loss against an in-state opponent since 2021. So
wow.
that was a big time win for Trigo, and that's a team that's riding a lot of confidence. They got a really, really good senior class led by Ashton Wynn and Cass Smith and then Aaron Sampson, and some newcomers that have really made an impact early. And Jared Ashenbrenner is one of those freshmen that's been a really good weapon for him. So now we'll just kind of see if they can continue to make noise in that class, in that 8-player Division I class, and I think they will, because that win against Wichita County will go a long way in getting them a district title, I believe.
Yeah, Pat Haxton has those Golden Eagles flying high right now. And I think a thing I like about 8-man this year, Rickie, is maybe a little bit more balance than 8-man 2. Like, I think a lot of people think that, 8-man 2 probably has, those top 3 teams or so that are clear-cut favorites. Not to say that there aren't some heavyweights in 8-man Division 1 this year, but it almost seems like there's also some of those teams that have undefeated seasons that are maybe we're still waiting to see if they're for real. I think there's some of those teams that could be really, really good. You're just kind of waiting for the strength of schedule.
Yeah, particularly in D1. I believe now the strength of schedule hasn't been there yet, but I believe South Central has kind of separated themselves as the favorite in 8-man Division 1 just with what they've had what they brought back from last year. After that, I feel like there's a lot of teams that are just in the mix. You got in our rankings, Little River number 2, followed by Central Plains, then Trigo, then Madison. All those teams are right there together, I believe. And then the breakout team that has been really fun to watch. Another one is Lincoln. And Lincoln is looking for their first playoff win ever, and I think they're well on their way to do that. So they're another kind of exciting team, and we'll see how far they can go this year.
Rickie, if anyone wants to see those rankings from you guys and Keisha covered, where do they go and when do they come out?
They come out every Sunday, usually about midday Sunday, maybe sometime in the evening on KSHSAA.com, and we throw them out to all our socials so you can find them on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Good stuff, Rickie. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Cole. Good being with you.
As Rickie Peterson, one of the Acacia coverage staff writers, that'll do it for Storytime. Here's a hard truth. If your business isn't using AI in its marketing, you've already fallen behind. But there's an advertising agency in Kansas that can get you back up to speed. That agency's name is Meyers Enterprises Media Research. The name sounds dry because the company's run by engineers, not salespeople. They use superior research and analytics that drive results with surgical precision. Marketing doesn't have to be a gritty battle in the trenches. Your business can win from the box. Visit their website, mediaresearch.agency, to learn more. It is our quality time interview with Jodi Stover, the head volleyball coach with the Neodesha volleyball team. Coach, appreciate your time. And as we get into, closing in and getting into the month of October, like what type of developments are you trying to see from your team? Like what do you want to see from your team now that you've had a decent chunk of the games and matches already done?
Right now we're just really working on consistency. We seem to be a little up and down as far as we make great plays and then we have little lulls sometimes. And we need to, be a little more consistent and play a little more evenly the entire time, I guess.
How does Southeast Kansas volleyball kind of treat you as far as the schedule and preparing you for postseason? You look at, different areas of the state and where their strengths are at. How would you evaluate the competition there in Southeast Kansas?
Sometimes you never know from year to year what you're going to get because, it's just like any other small school. And, you have cycles of athletes come in and out. And so they can have a really great year and then turn around the next year and maybe not be so great or, have a class come in that's very talented. And so it's really hard to tell from year to year what we're going to see. And so this year, I think probably our schedule overall is more, I guess, competitive or even than what it has been in past years. There's several teams, that are, making improvements and getting better and better. And so we should have several, good matches.
How did you end up at Neodesha? Kind of take me through your path and how you ended up with the Streaks.
Well, I was teaching math at Hutchinson Community College, and my husband, Darren, was hired as a pilot down here at Cessna. And he came home one night and said, "Hey, we're moving to Independence." And I was thinking Independence, Missouri. And I was like, "Yahoo." And so he said, "No, Independence, Kansas." And, to be honest, I'd never really been very much to this corner of the state. I grew up in Western Kansas in Stockton and went to college at Fort Hays. And so most of my time was right around that area. And we've been down here for 21 years now. We've raised our family down here, and I've been at Neodesha the entire time. And so I guess this is what we call home now.
Were you coaching before you made that move down to Independence? Had you kind of dabbled with coaching prior to that?
I did. I coached at Ellis and I coached at lacrosse for a year, mostly at Ellis. And I wasn't, obviously wasn't coaching at the JUCO, but when I got down here and the kids got just a little bit older and I decided to get back into it and started coaching, I think in 2010. And have coached volleyball ever since.
What initially piqued your interest in coaching? What inspired you to start coaching?
I grew up around it my entire life. My dad was a principal and teacher, and he was a basketball coach. And I grew up going to practice with him every single day. And, just idolized all those girls and grew up around sports. My brothers were both big into athletics. And so I grew up going to games every Tuesday and every Friday my entire life. And so it just seemed like a natural, progression into being a teacher and being a coach.
When you arrived first at Neodesha, how did you build up that culture or kind of maintain it? What was kind of your first steps early on in your career with the Streaks?
The girls, we've been very fortunate that we've had very good girls that were very interested in volleyball, and we were lucky enough to have some success in volleyball that made them want to get into it even more. We have a lot of our girls play club volleyball in the off season, and I think that has really helped develop our program. And so almost all of our girls that are playing right now have played in clubs since they were in, 7th and 8th grade. And so I think that was when we saw a huge change from just being competitive to being, so, doing really well and being able to advance in the postseason.
You bring up club volleyball, and how does that overlap with high school volleyball? And what have you kind of seen that relationship, especially with the some of the seasons overlapping?
Most of our girls play. They usually start club in usually December, and they play until about April. And so it makes them really busy because all of our girls, for the most part, play basketball, which they do in small schools. And so they're trying to juggle basketball and trying to juggle club volleyball on the weekends. And so it definitely keeps them busy. It keeps them on the run.
Have you seen though that like club volleyball and high school volleyball, they coexist pretty well? Because I know sometimes that you'll run into schedule conflicts, but for Neodesha, have you seen it balance pretty well?
Most of our girls don't play any club during our season at all. They play in the winter, and then they usually play with our team in the summer. And so we play in summer leagues and we play in day tournaments and stuff like that together during the summer. But they kind of go off on their own during the winter and play in different clubs.
When you look at developing players, coach, joined with Jodi Stover, head coach in Neodesha volleyball, is there a certain position that's harder than another one to develop for your team? Like any specifics?
I think it is. I mean, you can't teach height and you can't teach great, you can work on jumping ability, but for the most part, they either have it or they don't. And like I said, we've been blessed that we've had some pretty darn good athletes go through our program, and they have kind of pulled the other ones along with them, that they work hard and they take it very seriously, and that makes the others buy in and try to do the same.
What about a setter? So say if you don't have a true setter and you're trying to develop that going into the season or maybe during the summer, what's that challenge like, and just trying to develop that setter?
That's happened several times. And, I had someone tell me a long time ago to look at your girls and pick your very best athlete, and she's going to be your setter because she's the quarterback of your team. She's the one that's going to be, setting the tone and setting the pace and all that kind of stuff. And I've always kind of lived and died by that rule of I pick out who I think is our best athlete or who is our best, leader and athlete, and they are our setter. And sometimes this year included, they may have never set before, but they learn it. They have to learn it pretty darn fast. And, we've done pretty well with it.
What's that relationship like with your setter, and how do you develop that, or does that come naturally?
For the last, since 2018 or not, no, it would have been about 2019. My daughters have been our setters. And so I have 4 daughters, and I've been fortunate enough that they love volleyball, and they've been, pretty darn good athletes. And so, I won't lie that we have spent a lot of time in the gym, working on setting and working on what we want. And I was fortunate enough that they were willing to buy in and put in the time.
Your approach as far as like once play starts and calling out plays, or maybe it's a quick set or a combination, whatever it may be, how often is that solely on the setter after, the serve, or do you have something scripted? Okay, hey, this is what we're doing, but how much balance is that between you and the setter calling that stuff out?
A lot of the times it is our setters making the decisions on the fly, because they're the ones that, you never know. Sometimes that we're not sure where the pass is going to go or where the ball is going to be. And I trust them to make good decisions as to what are our strengths and where the ball needs to go. And if it's, I obviously feel free to tell them this is what I want to happen, and they try their hardest to make that happen for me. But for the most part, I let them play and let them make the decisions.
Anything that stands out when you're trying to find those mismatches, and like you said, trying to find your advantages, maybe your opponent's weaknesses, but when you're setting something up, because I think a lot of people, when they think about volleyball, coach, they don't necessarily think about plays. That's like you set it, you set up your teammate and they try to, kill it as hard as they can. But when you are trying to set something up, like how much strategy goes into that, just trying to avoid those blockers?
We're trying to always, find weaknesses in the other where we see if there's a, open spot in the defense or there's something that we can exploit. And we have things obviously that we like to do that we kind of rely on or we go to over and over. But for the most part, we're just always trying to see openings and trying to see things that we can try to take advantage of.
You go, continuing in your career, how much education do you do, even on a yearly basis or whenever you kind of check in, just to make sure you're, kind of staying fresh on the game of volleyball, but just continuing to grow as yourself as a coach?
I wish I could do more of that. For the most part, I just rely on, watching videos and watching other coaches and watching, there's tons of stuff of clips and things that like that you can watch all the time. And so I pick up a lot of just ideas, and even for new drills or just for things, to try, just by watching stuff on the computer.
Anyone that you reached out to, especially early on in your career, for advice?
Let's see. When I first started out, I just kind of jumped in feet first, and I hadn't been coaching for a while, and I had coached at Ellis and had coached some other few places, but jumping into a head coaching spot, this was my first head coaching spot, and it was definitely a learning experience. That was true. I was very fortunate to have some assistant coaches that had some experience that could help. And for the most part, I was just kind of learning on the go as we went.
That's worked out really well. Coach, appreciate your time and best of luck the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That is Jodi Stover, the head coach at Neodesha Volleyball. That'll do it for our quality time interview. SPX Specialized Video Wall Solutions. Your gym needs SPX. It is time for our Faces, Voices, and Writers segments on Kansas Sports Chatter. So many talented media personalities throughout the state, and like we said before, this is our opportunity to get to know them a little bit better. Today's guest, Pat Strathman. He is with ESPN Wichita 92.3, the station manager, also the host of The Pulse. You can hear it weekdays on the station from 2 to 4. And then you're like the voice, you're almost like the voice of Wichita. Like you're the voice of so many teams throughout that Wichita area. I won't even go through them, but obviously big hands with Wichita State University, Friends University, you name it as well. Pat, how's it going? How's the Wichita life treating you right now?
It's good. It's very chaotic and very, very busy for sure. Once we get to the late August, that's usually when my wife doesn't see me quite as much, and that does definitely hurt a little bit. But it's been a ton of fun down here in Wichita. Glad to be on with you, and it's very exciting to see all the stuff that you're doing. This is really cool. I'm glad that there's a platform like this out there in the state of Kansas, and looking forward to it to grow a little bit more throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about some of your collegiate experience, but you did plenty of high school games as well. So for you, I guess my first question would be, like, what got you hooked into broadcasting? You went to KU. I imagine that was a big push for it, but did you have an interest in broadcasting before you even reached KU?
The answer is no. So when you talk to most broadcasters, they'll give you this background of, growing up, I was listening to Jack Buck. I was listening to this guy on the radio. And at age 10, I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. That is not my story. Not my story at all. Not saying I didn't listen to the radio. Bob Davis, rest in peace, Bob, voice of the Kansas Jayhawks. Bob had some great pipes. I would listen to him with my dad when we were on the road going to different places. But I didn't listen to radio people growing up. Now, I will say this, though. I've always had an interest in sports. When I was growing up, I think my classmates called me ESPN because I was constantly looking up stats. I was constantly rattling off stats. I was dabbling with blogs. I was doing a little bit of everything. I always wanted to be in the sports world in some fashion. But when I got to Kansas, it was going to be for sports writing. As a journalism major, I wanted to be a sports writer. And I was going to work for the UDK, but I learned real quickly that when you're a freshman, you kind of have to work your way up the ladder in order to be able to do some different stuff. So there was one class, J101, with Professor Chuck Marsh. There's an individual standing in front of everyone saying, hey, listen, we're looking for freshmen. We're looking for anyone who wants to work. Do any of you want to do that? And if you do, we'll come over this way. We'll get you hooked up. And it was for radio, for KJHK, the student-run radio station. So when I went to the meeting, everyone's going around the room saying what they wanted to do. And I said sports, and everyone stopped and looked at me like I was a Martian. And I'm like, what's the deal? And they're like, hey, this is the news department. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So I walk out the Kansas Union, and they're just like, listen, we'll get you in contact with the right people, whatever it might be. Well, when I step outside, I'm about to hop on the bus. Before I do that, I smelled a pizza. And I look to my right, and as you know this, Cole, any media member should know this. Anytime there's free food involved, you're going to entertain the idea of trying to go over and get some free food. Well, I look over to my right, I see someone who I recognized who was a part of student orientation, and I said, "All right, well, if they're getting a slice, I'm going to get a slice." I walked over, and before I can grab a slice of pizza, a guy comes up and he goes, "Michael Spiro, KJHK sports director." So I stumbled into the right meeting, believe it or not, and it's all because of free pizza. So pizza is what got me into radio in some ways, and I actually just ran into him when Kansas was playing Wagner. I actually ran right into him. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a small world to run into you here. But that's how I got hooked. It was not because of me listening to the radio or anything like that. It was because of free food, honestly.
Pizza.
And then I got hooked on everything else.
For you now in Wichita, fast forward and with ESPN Wichita 92.3 and your show, you got so much great coverage in the Wichita area. Obviously, Wichita State is going to take a big presence, but then you have the national and the statewide appeal. But for high school coverage on your show, you do a phenomenal job. You're still incorporating those, or maybe KCAC or the Jayhawk Conference. How important have you noticed, as big media things of Wichita State and everything around you is, but to still incorporate high school coverage there in that Wichita area with so many great teams in that area?
It's massive. It is absolutely massive, because when I got here in October of 2021, I heard from multiple people that there needs to be more coverage for high schools. And when I got here, of course, the first year, you're just kind of learning. So the station was created in June of 2021. I arrived in October of 2021. I believe in 2022, they had high school football in some fashion. It was the Northwest Grizzlies, but that was it. They just did Northwest football, and that was it. And then we had the opportunity to switch from that and go to high school game of the week. And that opened up a door to more opportunities. And coaches started to recognize it. They started to get behind it. So did the student athletes. And then we thought, okay, well, football is such a big deal. Now we need to take a step forward and go with a high school basketball game of the week. So we added that into the mix. That ended up going incredibly well. And then it would have been last year, would have been 2 years ago, I suppose. No, it would have been 2024, spring of 2024. I was thinking of another way to, well, how can we increase our coverage even more? Like, what can we do? And I remember back in Topeka at my 580 WIBW days, we had a segment called High School Athletes of the Week. And I thought to myself, you know what? We should really look into that here in Wichita. So we did a trial run in the spring of 2024, ended up being very successful. And then we went ahead and did more in 2025, or I guess this is 2025, so I guess it would have been 2024. So we would have started in spring of 24. We would have had it for high school athletics for 24-25 season. And we did 72 videos, had over 400,000 views on those. And that's when I realized, okay, we need to continue to do this. And then you add on another aspect that we do here in Wichita. We actually have a program called the Honorary ESPYs, and we've done those since 2022. And it allows us to honor student athletes from the college level, both small college and Division I. We can also honor high school athletes. We can honor high school coaches, high school teams. We give out 8 trophies every year. We did it in 2022 for the first time, had about 5,000 votes because we don't pick it. We basically say, hey, here's the list, and you go right ahead, and communities can vote for people, so on and so forth. Well, those 5,000 votes became 9,000, then 9,000 became 12,000, and this past summer, over 21,000 people voted to determine who was going to take home an honorary ESPY. So high school coverage here in Wichita is massive because you brought up there's Wichita State. You still have to worry about the Chiefs. You still have to worry about the Royals. You still have to worry about all these other teams. KU, K-State, still very much a fixture in the community as well. But we have learned that there is a hunger for more high school sports coverage. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've continued to grow that area since I got here in October 2021. And it makes sense, right? I'm a Kansan. I got my first shot in sports doing high school sports. Did it in Atchison. And then when I was in Topeka, my official title was the voice of high school athletics. And then Salina covered Salina South and Salina Central. And then now down here in Wichita, we're covering all the schools as much as we possibly can. So it's high school athletics in the state of Kansas in itself is huge, but down here in Wichita, I think it's very special. It's a big city. Don't get it twisted now. This is a big city, but it's a city that is very much community oriented. And that's why we feel like it's huge to be able to have high school sports coverage on ESPN Wichita.
Pat, appreciate your time. Keep up the good work. We'll be tuning in 2 to 4.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have some chicken tendies here before too long. I appreciate you, Cole.
Well, if you got a Dairy Queen close by, let me know. That's Pat Strathman with the ESPN Wichita, the station manager and the host of The Pulse, weekdays from 2 to 4. That'll do it for Faces, Voices, and Writers. Are you looking for a new way to promote your business or organization? Do you want to get your message out to a statewide audience that loves high school sports in both urban and rural areas? Kansas Sports Chatter has advertising opportunities from commercials, sponsoring specific guests, product placements, and even a premier sponsorship. Let Kansas Sports Chatter promote your brand. Contact ksportschatter@gmail.com for more advertising details. That's ksportschatter@gmail.com. Come join the chatter. Time now for volleyball chatter on the show, and to always help us out with this segment, we bring in Jeremy Deckard with Prep Dig Kansas. Jeremy, thanks for coming back on the show. You're starting to become a regular. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me on. It's always a treat to talk about volleyball. I still think it's one of the best sports in Kansas that doesn't get enough recognition, and so any chance I have to talk about it, I'll take you up on it.
All right, well, let's talk about it right now. You look at some of the athletes that are standing out as we get closer and closer to the postseason, some of the teams as well. I'll let you kind of pick up wherever you want to go.
Well, it's busy September. We'll start there. I saw 20-plus matches, volleyball matches, and 4 high school football games I scouted, so I'm ready for a little bit of a break. October is one of my 2 favorite months in the year. I have a lot of experience working with college sports information directors, SIDs, athletic directors, and they're always complaining about the crossover months.
Yeah.
Those are the months when they have the fall sports and the winter sports for, like 3-4 week period. They cross over. And so those athletic directors have to be at games all the time. And it's a struggle for those college guys in administration trying to make sure all of their events are covered. For me, the crossover months of October and April are my 2 favorite months of the year. You got the end of the baseball season crossing over with the beginning of the hockey season. And then you have in April, kind of the wrapping up, getting ready for postseason hockey and, opening day. So October is a great month. It's a great month to travel, and I'm going to do some traveling this month, and I'll address that a little bit later. But I won't be in the gym for a while because I'm going to go on vacation. The next time you and I have talked about being on the show will be right before the state tournament. And so I just want to talk about some players that I've seen recently, give some updates on some recruitment, and then talk about ranking updates that we've got coming up on Prep Dig. I saw what I would say right now is the match to beat for match of the year at the Seaman Invitational recently. Bishop Carroll and Maize South, two Wichita area schools, played a early morning match that went 3 sets. Bishop Carroll came up on top, and that was only the 3rd loss of the season for Maize South. And then they ended up playing together against each other later in the day for the tournament title, and Maize South rebounded and defeated Bishop Carroll on that one, giving the Golden Eagles their first loss of the season. I only watched the first set, or the first match that morning. Watched another match. I watched Lansing. I'll talk about Lansing here in a second. But that match, there were really 4 players who stood out. The setter on each side. So Bishop Carroll's setter is Allie Orth, who has verbally committed to Army. So she's going to go to West Point and play volleyball. She had 30 assists in that matchup, and it was just all over the court. She played some good defense. She's a player I hadn't seen probably since her sophomore year. So seeing her 2 years later was a treat, and her skills have evolved. And then Autumn Pop, who I talked about earlier in another show, I think, because I saw Maize South earlier in the year. She's verbally committed to Wichita State. She had another outstanding match, and that match itself had a ton of long rallies. The setters were having to play some defense and do some digging. And then the 2 hitters that really stood out in that match for Maize South was Addison Davey, who is 6'4", 6'5", depending on the day. She's a beast. And she had probably the best match I've seen her play in person. She had multiple blocks. She had multiple kills. She's got a huge swing. And she was, for the first time in a while since I've seen her, and I've seen her at elite camps, and I saw Maize South earlier, she looked like she wanted to take the match over. She felt, you could see that there was she understood the situation, and she wanted to be a part of that. Now, they came out on the losing end. They won later in the day. I don't know how she did in that second match, but I'm guessing she still had a good match. And then Lauren DeGroot from Bishop Carroll, who's in the class of 27. She's an outside hitter, 6 rotation, quick, physical. One of my favorite wrestlers growing up was Lex Luger, and DeGroot's the total package. She can do everything. She's got a dangerous serve. She was fun to watch, and Bishop Carroll is going to be loaded. Both of those teams will probably likely the next time they see each other be in the 6A state tournament in Salina. Depending on how the rankings and the seedings come out, hopefully they won't have to go through each other. If they have to go through each other, then in the sub-state, then one of them is going to get left out, and there's going to be a really good team missing. But the way things shake out, kind of looking at things with a record-wise, hopefully they'll be on opposite sides of sub-state brackets, and then meet up again at the 6A state tournament. A couple of other players in that tournament who stood out: Avery Sands from Lansing. She's a 6 rotation. I referred to her in a report as the back row bandit. She can attack from the back row and do dangerous things for the Lions. And she had a really good match while we were in Seaman. And then over at the Rossville tournament that I watched in September, Nora Burdick had a really good game for Rossville. And in that tournament, she reached the 1,000 career kill benchmark already as a junior. So she could easily reach 1,500, 2,000 by the time her senior year is done with the Bulldogs. And then on the recruiting side, I wanted to share that some recent verbal commitments that I became aware of that maybe are under the radar commitments. Jillian Walton, middle blocker from Shawnee Mission West, has verbally committed to Northern Colorado. Carly Panderas, a DS libero from Blue Valley West, who's off to a solid season and is going to be a threat to win a state title. She has committed to Rockhurst verbally. And then Haley Lanes from Lansing, who actually was hurt during the Seaman tournament, so I didn't get to watch her play. She's verbally committed to the University of South Carolina. So those are 3 that I was not aware of that have recently come to my recent knowledge. Then I also want to share with you that on Prep Dig in the month of October, even though I won't be in the gym, I'm going to be in the research room and the film room. We've got 2 rankings updates scheduled to take place. The first one was earlier this morning, October 7th. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to our site. The class of 2028, those rankings have been updated. And then the next set of ranking updates is the class of 29, and those will be published on October 28th, right before the state tournament, which begins on the 30th across Kansas at 4 different locations.
Jeremy, appreciate it. Enjoy that time off. All right, we'll talk to you before the state tournament.
Thanks, Cole. Appreciate you.
That is Jeremy Deckard with Prep Dig Kansas joining us for Volleyball Chatter.
Being hydrated is essential for performing at your best. Remember to drink plenty of water before, during, and after practice or games. Fuel your body with hydration, balanced meals, and rest to recover and stay fit. Staying healthy means you maintain your strength and continue performing at your best. Hydrate your way to success.
It is Next Level Talents on Kansas Sports Chatter, our opportunity to talk to former Kansas high school athletes that are now competing at a college or university in the state of Kansas. And joining us today will be Kate Tilma. She is a member of the Wichita State University golf team and out of Kapaun Mount Carmel High School. Hey, Kate, appreciate you jumping on the show. How's the golf season gone so far for you?
Thanks for having me. It's been going really well. Our team, we have a good, solid team this year, and we've gotten off to a good start. I think top 3 in all 3 of our first tournaments.
Well, I was reading through your bio on the Wichita State website, and I mean, it just seemed like you had so many Wichita State connections, with your family, obviously being there from Wichita, but even with your family attending Wichita State as well. Does it just feel like you're at home at WSU?
Yeah, it's super nice. Even outside my family, like all the family friends and everything, Wichita State sports means so much to Wichita. And being from Wichita, you can very well see that. So just being out and around and everyone knowing I go to Wichita State and coming up and talking about it's really cool.
Was there any encouragement from your family to get back to Wichita State?
Our family's really close, so obviously they wanted me home, but I'm also a homebody, so I just wanted to go back home, and I saw the program going in the right direction, so I just talked about it, and it seemed to work out.
For you, getting your start in golf, you didn't start till a little bit later, right? Like closer to high school?
Yeah, the summer going into my freshman year.
So what made you finally kind of start to pick up the game?
I was big into basketball growing up. I loved basketball, but then later on, I realized that I wasn't fast enough. I couldn't jump high enough, so I knew I wasn't going to play that in college. And I wanted to play a sport in college, and everyone in my family played golf. And they never pushed me into it, but they kind of let me figure it out on my own. And then when I wanted to do it, they were there really heavily to help me get started, which was nice because I wasn't on my own, and that helped a lot.
So getting started, like, what do you remember from that first year or two and just trying to, get better at golf?
I remember trying at very young, my grandpa didn't really want to help that much because we were so new to the game. But I remember being older when I officially started, my grandpa helped me a ton with my swing. I remember going out and hitting like thousands of balls a day. Like we were out there for forever and would hit bucket after bucket. And I remember just never giving up and just hitting so many balls.
So you mentioned your grandpa. Anything that stands out as far as advice and just things that you learned from him over the years?
Yeah, he's been the one that's helped me all along. So it's really cool that even if he knows my game better than anybody. So even if I'm out of town and I need a quick phone call, like, why am I doing this? He can answer it right off spot, or sending videos or anything like that. He's ready to help.
So at what point in high school did you realize, hey, I want to go ahead and do this at the college level, and kind of realize that you were good enough to get to that level?
Well, it was kind of a weird thing because freshman year, I went to a really small school called Classical School of Wichita, and they didn't have a girls team. So I played on the boys team, and I was going to these tournaments, and I remember shooting like 101, and my mom was so excited. So I went from that, and then kept working hard. And then my sophomore summer, I won a bunch of tournaments. I became the first girl to win the Kansas Junior and the Kansas AM in the same year. And a lot of people in my family have won the Kansas AM, so that was cool. And then I played down in Oklahoma, won a few. I played in Texas. And so then that's when I realized I actually could do it.
You mentioned, those amateur winning the 2020 Kansas Junior Girls and then the Kansas Women's Amateur. Like in golf, like what's it like? Obviously, you have your high school competition and now in college, but like also competing in all those amateur events. What was that like for you?
Yeah, the Kansas Am was really cool because I knew I wanted to stay somewhere close for college, and there were a bunch of people who played at K-State or KU, like close schools. So that was cool to be able to see that I can play with those kind of people.
How has your golf game evolved over the years? So you go back to, early on at Kapaun and then now, as a senior at Wichita State, like what do you feel like you've improved on the most?
Honestly, probably mental side of just not getting frustrated with rounds and learning that confidence doesn't come based off of a specific score, but more you have confidence and then the scores will come after that. And but golf is a long-term game, as I've been told. So even now I'm working on different swing things and trying to grow even as a senior.
You had a lot of success at Kapaun. Like, what do you remember about, just competing for Kapaun Mount Carmel?
Competing for Kapaun was really fun. Like I said, even from being from Wichita, like I go out to Crestview every day, and the Kapaun coaches are out there, and we're still talking every single day. So that's really cool. But then also my sister played on the team, which was really cool. Because like golf, we're never going to really be on the same team, but we were on the same team and going to the same tournaments, and that stuck out a lot.
Able to win, team titles, and then obviously the high individual finishes there at Kapaun in your last couple of years. Like, what was that like for you as far as the competition level at that high school level in Class 5A?
It was good. It's obviously more, there's the top end, and then it's more spread out, I'd say. But there were good players and people that I still play against, and see even people that didn't go to play golf that were really good in high school. Like I still see them out at the golf course, and that's pretty cool. But the top end was pretty good here in Kansas.
Very impressive. Hey, Kate, appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
That is Kate Tilma, a member of the Wichita State University golf team and out of Kapaun Mount Carmel for our next level talents. Are you a person that's always on the go? You can still easily keep up with Kansas Sports Chatter with the audio podcast. Hear each episode on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to follow the Kansas Sports Chatter podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and watching another episode of Kansas Sports Chatter. We are all done with this Tuesday episode. We'll be back at it on Thursday for our statewide high school sports entertainment show. Appreciate it, everybody. We'll talk to you Thursday.